Hi, welcome everyone to the Data Driven Supply Chain Podcast. I'm your host, Yassine, and today we're going to talk some more about aerospace and the labor shortage. And we have a good guest today. We have Tala Abu Rizq, and she's a mechanical engineering student at McGill that is having a concentration, minoring in aerospace. So, Tala, welcome. Can you present a bit yourself, what you do, what you study, and tell us more about yourself?
Of course, thanks. So, hi everyone. My name is Tala Abu Rizq. I'm a third year mechanical engineer student, minoring in aerospace engineering at McGill University. And as a small brief about myself, maybe, so since I was a kid, I was always interested in astronomy, rocket science. So, basically, everything related to astronomy in general. And I moved to Montreal 3 years ago from Lebanon in order to pursue a career in aerospace.
Well,
And thanks for having me.
this is fantastic. And just a quick question: why did you choose McGill?
Honestly, because I'm Canadian. So since I was like a kid, I was always like, I'm gonna go to Canada. And then my first choice was McGill.
Yeah, McGill is fun. This camera went to McGill, really cool university. Shout out to all my teachers over there. I've seen on LinkedIn that you went into the Canadian Aerospace Summit and you were on the stage. That's pretty cool for a student to be able to do that and be with next to these all of these CEOs. Can you talk to us a bit more about that and about like your whole experience at the Canadian Aerospace Summit?
Yeah, sure. So, if some of you don't know what's the Canadian Aerospace Summit, so it was a summit that was organized in November, and I was invited as a student to talk about what students are looking for in an employer, about the challenges in the aerospace industry, like what got me into this industry. And it was really amazing because I got to hear like amazing talks and amazing speeches from people, and I got to see like what are they doing in order to like solve the challenges and like the solutions they're putting into it. And it was like an overall amazing experience. I also got to meet amazing people and connect with them. And as a highlight from this experience, honestly, it was the whole summit itself. It was like my first time talking in front of people and like giving them my opinion, and it was a really nice experience. So
Yeah, easy first time, right? The first time on the stage and in front of like all future executive for you. Really cool. I want to get a bit your opinion. We've been talking about this on the podcast for a while, and I've been traveling to suppliers, talking to buyers and stuff. There's a labor shortage. Like it's pretty apparent a bit everywhere. And I think it's interesting because I first thought that it was an easy problem to solve. Naively, I thought it was easy. And I remember I was sitting at this it's an aerospace supplier that is doing like very, very cutting edge stuff. And I was there with him, and he told me like, "Hey, I'm having trouble recruiting engineers and recruiting like people to do the machining and do this and that in my shop." And I was like naively trying to find solution with him for like 30 minutes. It's a very, very tough issue on this front. Um, what do you think is as a student that is a bit earlier on into the process and maybe with your peers, what's the state of the labor shortage on this front? Do you think like around the part where people are going to get into the job market? Do you have difficulties finding internship? What are you looking for as a student, as a future employees? How does it look like for you on this front?
Mhm. Honestly, I feel like yes, there's a bit of a shortage, and mostly because of coronavirus too. So it affected not only the aerospace industry, but like all of the industries as a whole. And for the aerospace industry in general, I would say maybe to go focus more on like students because they're like the future generation. So maybe go to universities, try to engage more people, try to connect with the students to get them, for example, on an internship. Even though maybe students don't have previous experience, encourage them to join their companies, try to mentor them. Because also students sometimes when they come during their first years, and especially with Corona, they don't know mostly where to start. So for example, for me, when I came to Montreal, from Lebanon. My first year was a bit hard because it was during Corona and I didn't know where to start. And when I tried to apply to jobs, I didn't have like experience. So I didn't get a lot of interviews during my first year. But then I started to get engaged and I started to search more and research more. And that's how I got to get into the aerospace industry. But I would say for companies, they could also encourage more students. For like students that maybe are lost or something, they could come and like encourage them and bring them to their companies, mentor them, maybe have more conferences, maybe like a tour of their company to get more information. And I think that's how students will like be interested more and maybe willing to join their companies too. Or maybe like from a young age, like workshops or even from school, not even from university, to start from school. So
It's pretty intense. That your first year in Montreal was in
Mhm.
straight into the pandemic. Wow. Okay, like
Yeah.
this is pretty. But what you're saying is rings very true because from all the discussion I had, what it boils down to is that there's no other way but to train people in order to get the talent that we need in house. Otherwise, it doesn't work because
Mhm.
there's if we just do a job posting like this and the person that is exactly qualified for
Mhm.
comes in, it's very slim because everybody else want this guy.
Mhm.
So you're the chance that you're going to get this person, this woman, it won't work, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Most of the shop, what I've seen them do is they are veering toward um, taking people that are not necessarily qualified
Mhm.
and then training them, giving them certification so that they like push them into the job. And the best one I've seen
Mhm.
um, were teachers.
Mhm.
Um, there were teachers which who had a background already in teaching, or already were teaching at like a CGEP or something, but had a shop on the side. For them, finding workers to work on the in whatever, if they were like a design firm or like literally a machine shop,
Yeah.
it was less difficult because they
Mhm.
had this possibility.
Yeah.
So uh, you named a few
Mhm.
ways, but let's say there's someone that is looking for mechanical engineers or people with this background. How do you want to be reached out to? What's the best way to get you into these work environment?
I feel like if like the student knows more about the company itself, if they come, for example, to table at our universities during events, or for example, if they organize events and they market it at university, that way people will know that like if I go to this company, what's the benefits, what I'm going to be working on. Maybe it's more hands-on experience. Maybe other people are more interested in research, so they know what they're getting into. And also, like I think that like a best way is to also start from schools. So like even at the summit, someone like a CEO of an aerospace company was saying that she's going to also start doing workshops in schools in order to get them to like know what are they getting into even at university, to see like how like to give them more knowledge basically. Because like for example, when I was in school, I didn't know much about mechanical engineering. Even I was like, okay, I'm just going to join. But like even if you start in school, maybe you'll know exactly where you want to go and you're going to have like uh a sort of path. And then at university also companies would come and talk to you. So I think it's more like they have to know how to reach students at university and school so that they know exactly where they're going into.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point because there's also another issue that we've talked in the podcast is that some of these, like in the manufacturing sector in general, there's kind of a visibility problem, I believe, like in the shops
Mhm.
and even in the buying company that are well known within their circle when they are trying to get targeted by people outside at whatever circle they are, they are kind of invisible. It's very difficult to
Mhm.
find them. I remember visiting a shop that was in a heavy labor shortage, and I was driving by and stuff. I had the address, got lost because the guys didn't have an even like a sign that says like, hey, it's this company. The website was like abysmal. Um, uh, barely found them into on Google Map, but I had the address. And then when I got there, like there was there was no branding. Like I came here, and there was like a direct access to the shop, and I was like, okay, there's no secretary. And then when I went up, this is where I found my guy, like on the corner on the computer. So I think that's an extreme example,
Yeah.
but there's kind of an issue in like marketing themselves.
Marketing, exactly.
I believe, and I think that a bit like the trade show.
Mhm.
Like if you want, like right now, if they want to gain new businesses, the best way for a company in the manufacturing space is to go to a trade show and have discussion. So I think that this is also the same thing that should apply when it's about talents. Like if you want to find talents in university and get students involved, you should go there
Mhm.
and then treat it as like a kind of a trade show experience. You go there, you talk to them,
Mhm.
and then you connect with them really.
Yeah, exactly. And even maybe reach out to professors, because professors, for example, they have students and they know like students where they're mostly like interested in. So maybe maybe also professors can encourage like the students and be like, hey, there's this company. So maybe reaching out and market, because marketing also is very important. Like even if we're in engineering and stuff, but marketing is still very important in order to reach those people.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good. I'll take a note of that and ping a bunch, ping a bunch of suppliers I know. Okay, cool. So this is good. And how, let's say, because I was also a student back in the day. I kind of know like sometimes how difficult it is to get involved when you don't know what's the possibility, right?
Mhm.
So just to give an example, at some point, like when I started my university degree, I was in anatomy and cell biology, and then I was like, research
Mhm.
look nice. Like I've seen talks, I've seen researchers that they were my teachers. I was like, I want to do research,
Mhm.
and it's silent because how I can do that, I don't even know, right?
Mhm.
But I had enough drives, and it was interesting enough for me to kind of push and try to figure it out. And my first ways of doing it was just like cold emailing professor, and I was like, "Hey, I read your paper. I want to work on your lab." And funny enough, this worked.
Mhm.
But on the mechanical engineering side, and people like let's say in trades, how can they get involved into let's say an industry like the aerospace industry? And what would you tell your other students, peers, to do in order to get more involved into that?
Honestly, I agree with you. The most important is connections. Like how you said, how you emailed your professor. I feel like connections is the most important, because you meet people and you know exactly what are they working on, and maybe this will interest you. So for example, go join more conferences, go meet people, see what they're doing, and don't hesitate. Like for students that are like maybe confused or don't know where to start, don't hesitate to reach out to people, because there's always like an opportunity for you. And not only that, but I would say also the most important, like what I would encourage students to do is to join clubs and student groups, because I find like during those times, like when you're like working with your group or with your team, you'll know exactly what you like and if you're really enjoying this certain field. So for example, there's a lot of opportunities at university that you can start joining. You can get hands-on experience, and from there you can see if you're actually into this actual field. Also, if you research, there's many competitions they can join in, or like maybe even like societies. So I would say like build your network and get in touch and even get hands-on experience. I feel it's the most important, honestly.
Yeah, I totally agree with this. Like, there's kind of sometimes there's a shock between like what you thought theoretically this will be, and then what it actually is. And if you wait too long in between, you kind of have this idea, but like in reality, it's absolutely not that.
Mhm.
In my case, I knew I loved research because I did it like first year of university. So when I graduated, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do research again, and it was gonna be fun because I knew what I was running against. And there was this this supplier I visited, and they have a brand new office and stuff. Like they have a gym over there. It looked neat. Like the whole place was nice. They were making like cutting edge stuff. And then he told me a story about like some they call it a journalier. I think it's someone that comes in but like isn't like 100% part of the company, just like here to help. But it's a new guy, and he came here and then like they showed him everything, like all the perks, and then they showed him the job. At 12, he was gone.
my God.
Never came back. He stayed like 3 hours.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
the difference between like what he thought it would be and then what it actually
Mhm.
was light years away. But for the company, that was a kind of an investment because they had to select people, interview them. There's a long process about it. So if you're not interested into this sector at all, you have to know in advance. How would you how would you say someone who should go about kind of finding their true calling? You
Mhm.
named clubs. Did you try a bunch of stuff on your side too before you find the what you like?
Honestly, yeah, I tried like I joined many clubs and I like joined the engineering club and maybe like the astronomy, but in the marketing side. I also had an internship. So the thing that made me realize that maybe I'm at the right place was my internship. So I would also encourage people if they have like the opportunity to go and like try to get an internship because you'll exactly like work on the things that you're going to be working maybe in the future. You're like in the same setting, in the job setting. So I feel like an internship is like a good way to see if actually you're in the right field or not.
Yeah, and I've talked to a few manager and stuff, and they were like, if I get a good intern, he's not leaving. Like this person is
Exactly.
absolutely not leaving, uh,
Mhm.
because it will be it's much easier to give them a job right
Mhm.
now, or like just making a note of this, than to say
Mhm.
okay goodbye and then try to figure out and find someone. Uh,
Yeah, an internship is a very good way to start for like even for employers and for students because employers like it's for them if they see a good intern they can directly hire him like later on and if not it's just like okay. But for the student too if like he enjoys the internship it's good and it's, he's gonna know like his path and everything and if he doesn't also it's something very good because he'll know where to go to.
Yeah, it reduces the risk on both sides. And I think this is also why um, when I visited a manufacturer,
Mhm.
the teachers were always all good because they already had this relationship with like
Mhm.
the student, the intern. So whoever they brought in to the company to start an internship or like start to volunteer, whatever it was, and then they gave them a job, they already built this kind of trust and they knew that this person could do this, or if they didn't knew, they knew that they can learn. I
Yeah.
think this is important, especially in this kind of sector. Building trust with whoever you're gonna work with, or your peers, or your employees. I think it's highly valuable. It's something that if you don't have, um, you'll be very detrimental to your business because if it's just transactional, purely transactional,
Mhm.
the person might leave, right?
Definitely.
Or you might not be able to explain to them what's coming afterward. That would be super interesting. And I feel like this is something super important. I think internship
Mm.
really does build that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Cool. So maybe in the more like long-term vision, how do you feel about the future of the aerospace industry, especially in Canada, with
Mhm.
everything that you know right now?
Honestly, I feel like it's blooming today. Like it's kind of the place to be. Like there's a lot of effort put into it, and also with all of the new technologies and all of the new ideas and everything, like it's really growing. And I feel like they're putting a lot of effort into it. Even in the aerospace sector, like as in rockets and everything, it's really growing today. So yeah, I feel like especially in Canada, it's the place to be. And like even like a small example, like before we used to go to competition for the rocket team to compete every year, but in the US. And they didn't used to have a competition like this here in Canada. But last year, someone created Adam Trampour. I don't know if you know him. He even created like a platform for students to come and compete in Canada with the rockets. So I feel like this is a small example, but it still shows that they're trying their best and they're actually growing. So I feel like it's the place to be.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with this. I think it's bright.
Hmm.
There is some issues, and I think it's like has to do with labor shortage, has to do with like some supply chain problem with the materials and stuff. But in terms of the future, we got these problem because there's a demand for this stuff. Like I'm talking to procurement folks, talking to suppliers. There's kind of more job that they know how to do with. So definitely, if there's a sector to look out for in
Hmm.
Canada. I think you're right. I think the aerospace industry is definitely booming right now.
Yeah, it is. There's challenges, but like in every industry, like there's
Yeah,
always challenges. But
definitely. There's especially in manufacturing sector, it's challenges over challenges, let's say.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. This was a good discussion. Anything that you're looking for, I don't know, internship, connection,
Mhm.
how do we reach out to you if we want to hire you into our company?
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. So if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out on LinkedIn. So my name is Tala, and then my last name Abou-Risk. And yeah, or by email.
Perfect, cool. And I think which sector are you more interested in?
I'm more interested in aerospace or aviation.
Okay, perfect, cool. So anyone that is listening, you're looking for intern, Tala seems to be a very smart student.
Thank you.
So thank you a lot for coming, Tala. It was nice to get your insight about the student side. I think it connects the dot nicely with what we've learned from the suppliers and the buyer side. Any last word before we close?
Thank you for having me. And I would encourage students to get more involved and for employers to encourage more students.
Beautiful said. Perfect. So thank you all. This is it for the Data Driven Supply Chain podcast. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you want to be a guest or to reach out to Tala. I'll put the link in the description. And I wish everybody a great rest of the week.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.